everybody and welcome back. My name is Kari and today I am doing my December wrap-up. I read 13 books in December, miraculously, and I will take it. Part of that probably had to do with the amount of reading I did on a plane. So, let's see what we had. All but 4 of them I don't own. So, here we go. First one being Ash by Melinda Lowe. I gave this one 4 stars. It is a queer retelling of Cinderella. I did like it. It's not necessarily memorable, like I can't recall details of it at the moment. But I did really enjoy it when I read it, and I definitely want to read more by Melinda Lowe and continue in this series as it is the first of queer fairy tale retellings. So I did enjoy it. Bit simple, but there's nothing wrong with a good simple book. Next I read I'm Glad My Mom Died by Jeanette McCurdy, which is a memoir by Jeanette McCurdy, who played Sam Puckett on iCarly. This memoir took all book communities by storm, basically, when it came out. I think there were 50 people in line ahead of me in my library to read it. I loved it. I gave it 5 stars. It is absolutely brutal. Trigger warnings for, I think there's assault, there's definitely eating disorders of any kind. So if you have food disorders, eating disorders, please look up more specifics, but just know eating disorders are a huge theme in the book, and they're definitely brutal. They're not mentioned in a little bit of a way, they're mentioned and discussed quite thoroughly. That said, I think it was a great book, very well written, and it definitely looks at... She focuses right on her life, not so much criticizing the film industry or the TV industry, but there are little nuggets, I guess, in there where she kind of talks about, you know, oh hey, they wanted me to try on this type of bathing suit and I wasn't comfortable in that, but I had to because it was expected. You know, stuff like that. So it was really interesting to read. She's an excellent writer, very conversational, but also it read like a nonfiction, in the sense that you could tell it wasn't fiction, except that it read so fast. I finished this in one sitting, I think 3 hours maybe? However many hundreds of pages it is, take the first number and that's how many hours it was, because I read about 100 pages an hour. For usually just fiction. Non-fiction I read 50 to 60 pages an hour, but I flew through this book. It was just very well written. All of that to say, 5 stars. Please, 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 please check any content warnings or trigger warnings if you need them. Storygraph is a phenomenal place for them because everybody can mark content warnings that they think need to be in the book so you can see which ones are the biggest and which one are less mentioned. But yeah, loved that book. I thought it was fantastic. Then we have The Last Queen by Chitra Banerjee Divakaruni, which was about the last Punjabi Maharaja's last wife. There we go. I think it was very interesting. I give it a 3.5. I wanted more about her, and I don't know, I wanted more detail basically. I think pacing-wise it was a little bit off. It kind of did chunks of her life, which is usually a great way to do historical fiction, but I don't think it went deep enough into it. It was a very short book, 300 pages. So if all you want is an overview of this woman's life or just a fun novel set in India in the 1800s, this is absolutely for you. It was fantastic. I just wanted a little bit more. But that said, I did find it really interesting, particularly when I read another book that I'll mention here in a minute, because her son, Victor Dalip Singh, was mentioned in it. So, like I said, 3.5. It's a fun book. I wanted more depth. Which also held true for The Watchers, A Secret History of the Reign of Elizabeth by Stephen Alford, which I similarly gave 3.5 stars. The Watchers was a non-fiction about essentially espionage in Elizabethan England. I don't remember much about this book. I learned more from the biography of Walsingham that I read. Which, I mean, I should, right? Walsingham was her spy master. It was fine. Again, it was fine. It did its job more or less, but it wasn't anything that I will remember or that I will really go back and reread because I don't think it did enough. Ah yes, then we get to the books that I don't have a copy of, that I annotated for Christmas. So the first one is Lost in Time by A.G. Riddle, which I gave for 4 stars and I annotated for my friend Chelsea. Since she has already got it and opened it, I can say that. They've all gotten them and opened them, so we're good. Lost in Time is a time-traveling murder mystery involving dinosaurs. I don't know about you, but that was all I needed to hear from Abby of Pelennor. I think she said time travel and dinosaurs, and I was sold. And then she said it was a really good book, so that just cemented that I needed to read it. And since Chelsea likes both science and dinosaurs and time travel, this was the perfect book to annotate for her. She was very excited. I gave it 4. I did really want more dinosaurs. Definitely there should have been more dinosaurs. However, I think it was really fascinating how he did it, and I think the time travel element was particularly well done. It will make your head hurt because it's Doctor Who-esque in the time travel area. Particularly the whole timey-wimey wibbly-wobbly ball of stuff description of time as opposed to a linear 4. But I really enjoyed it. And then I read Braiding Sweetgrass by Robin Wall Kimmerer for my friend Katie, and it annotated that. This one I also gave 4 stars. It was a reread for me, and I got significantly more out of it than I did when I read it the first time, because the first time I read it on audiobook. Nonfiction and I on audiobooks are not friends. It doesn't work. Silly puppy. Anyway, I gave this 4 stars. I think, again, I kind of wanted more. I wanted more about the intersection of science and indigenous beliefs and how you could weave them together and what the differences were. You know, I just wanted more of that for sure. And there were places where it felt either dense or like it was missing something. However, there was so much amazing knowledge and well-written stories in this book. So much well-written knowledge and so many well-written stories, there we go, in this book that I do still think it is a phenomenal read and I highly recommend it. Then I read Desperate Measures by Katie Robert, which is a Disney villain-centered retelling, erotica, basically. Desperate Measures is an Aladdin retelling where Aladdin's the bad guy and Jafar gets the girl. I love this. I gave it 4 stars. Why did I give it 4 stars? That's a good question. Oh yeah, because there's a kink in there that nope, I'm out. But otherwise, and it was one of those like little kinks, so you could kind of gloss over it and it'd be fine. But that was about the only reason. Then I read Fire and Ice, The Volcanoes of the Solar System by Natalie Starkey, and annotated that for Abby from Abby of Pelennor because volcanoes. I gave this one a 4 star as well. I think it was really good. I wanted more about the galactic or universal or cosmological or whatever word is appropriate, the outer space volcanoes than I did about the Earth volcanoes. I think if you're going into this book as somebody who doesn't have a degree in volcanology, then you can absolutely read it and you will greatly appreciate all of the details that she puts in about earthbound volcanoes in order to compare them to outer space volcanoes. That part was very well done, right? She gives you all of the basics and the basis that you need to understand why volcanoes on Neptune are a big deal. I had enough of a background that I wanted a wee bit less of the background. Again, however, I think she does a really good job of combining it all and talking about it all and keeping you hooked for the entire book. So I give it 4 stars. I have that one. Ah yes. Then the book where Mr. Duleep Singh, or Prince Duleep Singh, is mentioned is The Earl and the Pharaoh by, who are you by? By the Countess of Carnarvon. That's right, I forgot about that. This is a book about the Earl of Carnarvon and his life, basically. It's a biography of him. He is the person who funded Howard Carter at the time, 1929? It's either 22 or 29, I don't remember. Who funded Carter at the time he found Tutankhamun's tomb. As a biography, I think it was really good. I gave it a 3.5. So, I mean, there's that. I think it was a good biography of the Earl of Carnarvon. I think it was really interesting. It was well researched. I enjoyed the pictures in it. However, I think it's misleading because it doesn't focus so much on him and Carter or even him and finding Tutankhamun. It's just a biography. So that kind of irritated me a little bit, because if you're going to say the Earl and the Pharaoh, I think you should focus on the Earl and his association with the Pharaoh that he helped fund finding of. But that was just sort of the end of his life. Don't get me wrong, he died shortly after the finding of Tutankhamun, so it makes sense that that was the end of his life. I thought there could have been more detail to that. So, that said, those are all the books that I don't own. Now let's get to the ones I did. First of which is The Black Count by Tom Rice. I read this for my book club, in part because I had recommended it, and in part because we read Count of Monte Cristo. That's the one, for October and November. I really enjoyed this the second time around. I gave it 5 stars. I think Rice does an excellent job of researching Alexandre Dumas' father, helpfully named Alexandre Dumas, and his family and his history and what happened to his dad and how his dad's life ended up so intricately wound up and told through Dumas the Younger's stories. So, The Count of Monte Cristo, apparently there's a book he wrote called Georges, which is essentially a biography of his father, so I need to go read that now. But a lot of his stories pull details and stories from his dad's life. So I loved reading it back to back because they would mention things like Haiti the slave in The Count of Monte Cristo, and Rice would be mentioning, oh yeah, well this is where that came from in his dad's life, which I thought was really cool. But also it's just well written, and I think it's a brilliant book on a otherwise forgotten, wrongfully so, man. Then I annotated The 7.5 Deaths of Evelyn Hardcastle by Stuart Turton for my sister. This is an Agatha Christie-esque murder mystery where our main character wakes up in a different human host every day for 8 days to solve the murder of Evelyn Hardcastle, as you might guess. I thought this was really interesting and really well done. I would love to know more about the world Turton built around this. No spoilers, so that's all I'm gonna say, but I really love this. I think I gave it 4.5, probably. Let's find out. Nope, go back to 2022. I gave it 4. So I gave this one 4. I think this is a book that you read once, and then maybe once you've gotten dementia or gone senile or something, because it is spelled out very explicitly what happens, why, and how. Don't get me wrong, for somebody like me who does not predict murder mysteries, even if I try, that was very helpful. However, as somebody who likes to reread books, even murder mysteries, I don't think this is one I could reread for the next 10 to 15 years. Simply because it was so laid out. Not to say it wasn't good, it was fantastic, but that's kind of my biggest hang-up. And then I didn't quite finish the Pelennor series in 2022, however that's one of the books I've read in January 2023 was the 4th Pelennor book, because I read The Crow, which is the 3rd, by Alison Croghan in December. I gave this one 4 stars as well. This one follows Hem of... well, Hem. We're gonna go with that, because if you haven't read the other books, you don't know who Hem is, and then I spoil. We're gonna follow Hem. This is dark, it's brutal. It definitely had me on the edge of my seat. I definitely wanted to know what happened to Hem, and I had a couple of moments where I skipped ahead to make sure people were alive or not, so that I was emotionally prepared. But I don't like this one as much as I like the other ones, because I like Merritt better. I'm sorry, Hem is adorable, and I'm sure he's very sweet, and he's clearly loyal as hell. But I just like Merritt better. However, I did love Salaman and Urk. Oh my god, Urk is my favorite. My favorite. I love him. So, yeah, I gave this 4 because it is a very good book, and it makes sense once you've read the 4th one why we spend so much time with Hem. But not my favorite of the series. And last but not least, I continued my tradition of reading a romance on New Year's Eve, and I read The Lady's Guide to Celestial Mechanics by Olivia Waite, which I believe I also gave a 4 star. A lot of 4 stars this month. Yep, 4 stars. So this one obviously is a romance. It is a sapphic romance, and I really enjoyed it. I mean, it's a romance, right? So it's simple, it's formulaic, but I enjoy that. Smut scenes were fine. They weren't anything spectacular. And that was kind of my biggest complaint. I loved the astronomical aspect to it. I love that all of the women in Olivia Waite's sapphic books, I should specify, I've only read 2 of her books, but both of them, the Care and Feeding of Waspish Widows, I think was the first one, they both the women in both series have a life, right? They're not here to marry and have children and then just cut everybody out of their life. They have actual interests and things in common, and they make a relationship work. Like, it is a realistic, beautiful depiction of women as humans. And it's really sad that we only have romance books that depict it this well. No shade, none whatsoever to a romance book. It is very difficult to write. More so shade to the fact that we denigrate romance so much. Do we think it's because men don't want to meet the standards that romance books set? Probably. We're not gonna go there though. Anyway, I really enjoyed this. It was a great way to end off 2022, and I kind of want to check out more of Olivia Waite, because like I said, I've only read 2 of her books, but if they all continue this way, again, I wanted more spice, but I can forgive that. So, we'll see. In the meantime, that's that. So those are the books that I read in December of 2022. Melody, you are fine. It is not even 3 o'clock. She's staring at me like she's starving. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, give it a thumbs up. Wow, I haven't said that in a long time. Excuse me. And if you want to see more like this, hit that subscribe button down below as well, with a little bell if you want to be notified every time I post. That's up to you. I never hit the bell. Anyway, I got sidetracked. That's all I have. Those are the books from December. Hope you enjoy. Leave comments, questions, thoughts down in the comments below, and I will see you in my next video. Bye!